to kind of educate our membership too of kind of the who's who out there, and then a lot of us start to follow those people and start to look at what else are they doing, and gee, maybe I need another one.
Hello, print friends, and welcome. I'm your host, Miranda Metcalf, and I release weekly episodes with people around the world who share our love of printmaking. If you like what we do, please rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts. If you don't like what we do, don't worry about doing that. We're cool, thanks. Or just tell a fellow print friend about the podcast and they can enjoy it too. We also have a Patreon page where supporters can join at tiers that start at just $1 a month, and that really helps us to keep bringing you printmaking content every week. You can also get thank yous like exclusive merch, as well as access to our bonus content, Shop Talk with our editor, Timothy Pauschak. These are quick and dirty tips and tricks with our guests about materials, processes, business advice, and general studio nonsense. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you can check out the link in the show notes and sign up to hear Tim's chat with today's guest. If you want to save a little cash and still support the show, we also have yearly subscriptions that'll save you 15% off that tier price. Printmaking forever, shun the non-believers. Hello Print Friend is brought to you by Speedball Art Products, who've been offering a diverse range of high-quality products to your practice since 1997. Products like Arnheim 1618, a high-quality, low-cost paper made in collaboration with a historic paper mill near the city of Arnheim. Our editor, Timothy Pauschak, swears by it for printing lithographs, and our friend and guest of episode number 4, Miles Calvert, evangelizes its use yearly, encouraging his students to participate in Speedball's New Impressions contest, where they produce work in every print medium. So if you're looking for an affordable paper that can support whatever inky idea you can throw at it, then head on over to speedballart.com to find out where you can pick up the start of your next edition. Print friends, I have some great news for you. The West Virginia University School of Art and Design's printmaking program is looking for motivated and ambitious artists who want to be a part of their active print community. And between now and the 15th of January, they're waiving application fees for their MFA and MA programs. You might recognize the name West Virginia University from my chats with Bryn Parrott, Olivia Richardson of the Radical Intersectional Printmakers Guild, Stephanie Alanese, and Martin Mazzora, all who studied in the printmaking program there. You can apply for free using the code GRWVU25. Assistantships and waiver hours are also available to incoming students. You can learn more at artanddesign.wvu.edu or check out their printmaking professor, Joseph Lupo, on Instagram at Lupo_Joseph. If you didn't get your pen and paper or your notes app open in time, do not worry, all of these details are in the show notes. My guest this week is Catherine Baca-Balinas, president of the Print Club of Rochester, which has been running continuously for the past 90 years. 90! We'll talk about what print clubs are and how they support artists and collectors alike, the benefits of membership, and the club's wonderful history of commissioning work from printmaking greats past and current. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and prepare to join the club with Catherine Baca-Balinas. Hi, Catherine. How's it going?
Hi, Miranda. It's going great.
Hi, good.
How are you doing over there?
We're pretty good. You know, we're in week 2 of a month-long lockdown, but, that's nothing new to the world. You can't really claim it's my own, personal burden to bear. We've all been through it, all been doing it. So just feeling really grateful that I get to spend my time locked at home talking to great print folks like yourself out there in the world. So it's not a bad way to spend it if you got to sit at home.
Sounds like a wonderful way to spend it. I know when we were in lockdown, I got into the studio and it was fantastic.
Yeah. I think us maker types actually are pretty lucky when it comes to that. So, yeah.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it was nice to be in lockdown and just not have any of those extracurricular things that you had to even take care of, and just could really concentrate on what you were doing in the studio. So that's great.
Yeah. So we're here to chat today about the wonderful Print Club of Rochester and its history, which I'm really excited about because as an admirer of prints myself, I love the idea of print clubs and their sort of history that runs parallel to the history of printmaking in the 20th century and the way it supports artists as admirers and collectors. But before we get into all that good stuff, would you please introduce yourself and let people know who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Okay. Well, my name is Catherine Baca-Bolinas, and I am the current president of the Print Club of Rochester. And we're located, obviously, in Rochester, New York. And some of our members are kind of all over the place, actually, which is really quite nice. So I came to printmaking in a sort of a roundabout way, actually. I studied it a little bit in undergrad in California, Cal State Long Beach, and absolutely fell in love with stone lithography, but somehow made my way to Rochester, New York, of all places, from California, with a minor stop in New Mexico, actually.
Oh, okay.
I had the intent to go to Tamarind, but life kind of gets in the way sometimes, and I just didn't quite make it there.
Yeah.
So had some friends out here in Rochester. They absolutely loved it and said, come join us. So I did, and ended up going to graduate school for art ed. So I was a longtime art teacher in the Rochester area. And when I retired, I knew I wanted to get back into my art. And I was very, very fortunate to take a one-day workshop up at Rochester Institute of Technology. And they run a non-toxic printmaking lab up there. So this one-day workshop was all about the new technology of using Imagon, which is a photosensitive film. And I fell in love. I was back in my element. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and actually started to take a couple of classes that were at night. And one of the instructor that I had was amazing. She was an incredible printmaker. Her name is Liz Durand. And she encouraged me to join the Print Club of Rochester, which I had never heard of.
Uh-huh.
And because, being a teacher, a K through 12 teacher, is a very different environment than being a working printmaker, professional printmaker or artist. And so I joined, and again, it was just a fabulous experience. The people I met, the skill set that they had, I just felt like I was amongst my people.
Yeah.
They totally understood where I was coming from. It wasn't as if I was talking to other artists, but I was talking to just printmakers and learning so much. I learned so much more since I've been in Print Club than I ever did in undergrad. And just because all of our members do different types of methods, and they approach things differently. And it's just been a fabulous experience. I can't even tell you how much I've loved being in the Print Club. So I was asked to join the board right away. And I'm one of those that kind of likes to know how things go behind the scenes. And so I joined, and I've been on the board for about 9 years now. And I've been the president this is my third year. So
very nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And so I feel like the history of the Print Club of Rochester, you were founded in 1930. And I feel like, is this you're the oldest print club in the States, or second oldest, or it's gotta be up there, because you're coming up on 100 years here in the next few years. Yeah.
We're pretty darn close. So we actually last year just celebrated our 90th year. We're not the oldest, but we're apparently one of the oldest continually running clubs in the country, which is pretty spectacular given that we're, a small little town of Rochester. We're not, San Francisco or LA or New York City, but to have survived all that time is really incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in general, I'd love it if you could just sort of speak to print clubs as a concept and, what they do and the kind of role that they play in artists' lives and get people sort of excited about them, because I feel like they're an aspect of the print world that's very important, very, has had a way to build community and mutual support and admiration long before Instagram, right? When you,
Yes.
when
Yes.
you could get some of those affirmations that way. And so how do they work in general, and how does the Print Club of Rochester work? And why should people get excited about them?
Well, it's quite easy to get excited about them if you ask me, but I am biased, I will admit. Our particular club is a little unique in the fact that we are not just printmakers in our club. We also have people who are collectors and people who are just, print enthusiasts. And so it's a really nice combination of people. And so you get information from all sort of aspects of the print world, what people who are collectors are looking for, or what they're interested in, or what's going on in, even just in our own community and the types of work that's being done. One of the things that we do is we have a members exhibition, and actually that's about to come up this weekend, and that's going to be our 90th members exhibition, which is just, I find, incredible. And then we are also unique because we do demonstrations, we do workshops, we do presentations, we do talks. Many times it's our members who have this incredible knowledge, who share it with us. And I just think printmakers in general just kind of love talking shop. We love learning new techniques and figuring out how somebody did something. And so our members exhibitions alone give us so much knowledge, and people get so excited about it to see what's being done and how things are being approached in a new way, even if it's an older method or possibly a new method that no one's ever even heard of.
Right.
And then, one of the things that we've started to do too is we've now started, well, actually, you're very familiar with it because you helped to jury one of these. About 6 years ago, we started doing additional exhibitions, and we started this international exhibition. We just had our third one, actually, and the infamous Jenny Robinson was our juror for that one. I believe you referred to her as the grande dame of printmaking.
Yes. When we all take off our hats to the infamous Jenny Robinson. Absolutely.
Yes. But it is spectacular to do because this time we had over 100 people who submitted. And even though, unfortunately, all 100 didn't get in, we probably have about 45 or so, to see what's going on in the print world and to be able to sponsor these exhibitions is just phenomenal. The level of expertise for the prints that Jenny in particular picked, which is astounding. And for our local community and our local printmakers to be able to see that, you'd have to travel to New York City to get that same caliber, I think, or, Los Angeles or Chicago. So to have that come here to Rochester, not only for the community, but for our membership to see what's going on and what people are doing and how people are approaching printmaking. So I really think that printmaking in the last, maybe 5-10 years has just really changed. It's no longer where you have, if you are, doing etching, that's all you do. There's, such this beautiful combination of methods that's being put together in prints nowadays that I just find fascinating.
Yeah. I think that, I've only been in the art scene really for the last 10 years. But I would say even in that time, the availability of ease to share different processes, video, how-to things on YouTube, reveals on Instagram, just how all these different ways that printmakers can now document and share what they're doing openly. I feel like it had to have just been this huge explosion in as you say, mixing techniques, coming up with new techniques, sharing ideas, because this is something that I think printmakers, as you say, love to talk shop. They're always interested in. There's a real sort of technical mindset about printmakers. They want to know the how, right? There's very,
Yes.
people don't tend to look at an oil painting and, you might say how, but it's a different kind of how, it's sort of how did you paint that so realistic, but not really truly like what acid did you use and what's your plate and, what kind of carborundum do you have in your life and all these different questions that can come from printmaking. And I do think that people sometimes get the impression that printmakers like to kind of quote unquote guard their secrets. And but I think that really had to have been, I think, a bit of an old fashioned idea. And that, yes, maybe, I don't know, in the 16th century or maybe in, the very commercial printing houses or something like that, when you're pushing the limit and printing for big blue chip pop stars, maybe that's the case, but the boots on the ground, your printmakers, most of the people who are out there, they are so excited to share knowledge, to receive knowledge, and to really create this collective whole of people doing interesting things in the medium. That's been my experience anyway.
And well, it's been my experience as well. One of the things that we've done too is we've done studio visits, and to go into someone's own personal studio, and quite often they'll have some of their prints out, or they'll show a little technique. We're all there with our cameras going, wait a minute, hold that up again, what brand is that, and how did you use that, and where'd you get that from? It's like, I've never seen that before. Oh my gosh, wait a minute, I need to write that down. But you're right. I think we just, as printmakers, we love technique, and we love that exploration of new techniques and how can we change things and what can we add to our own personal prints. And so it's just that community that we have in our particular print club, especially, that just opens all these doors, and people are constantly sharing, like, oh, I tried this and I tried that. And it's just this wealth of knowledge that has come out amongst our members. And it's just always such a wonderful way to share. And like you say, to help each other out, we're constantly like, oh, I can come show you this, or I can, come on over and I'll help you out with this part. Just seeing what other people are doing, and you're right, the feedback that you get, it's just always been very enlightening, and I don't know, I can't find the words that I want to say.
And I think I know, like, the feeling that you mean is that for me, it lights up some very important parts of my brain, which is the need for community, the need for knowledge, the need for camaraderie, the need to create. Like, it all kind of can come together, I think, in situations like this, where you're just having a gosh damn great time. It's really what it comes down to.
It's inspirational. You go home and you're just rejuvenated, and you're like, oh, okay, I want to try this and I want to try that. My biggest problem with it is I find I love everything about printmaking. I really do. I lean towards lithography, and I do a little bit of silkscreen, and I do a little bit of this non-toxic etching, and I kind of throw it all together. But my problem is I love what everybody's doing, and it's like, oh, I really want to try that, but wait a minute, I really should just kind of concentrate on these three things, because otherwise I'm just going to never get anything done.
Yeah, that is such a printmaker's dilemma, is that when you're in love with the process and the really infinite amount of textures and surfaces and colors and line forms that you can make with printmaking, you could really just chase them all. But truly, each medium you could spend a lifetime doing, just perfecting it. So it's really quite interesting, I think, that we have to, you get to sort of maybe live vicariously through other people who have, let's say, dedicated their life to wood engraving. And you're in the litho camp, so maybe you won't ever get there, but you can really love and appreciate and see what a wood engraver is doing. Even if you're not going to have enough time in this lifetime to do wood engraving and silkscreen and lithography and everything else, you get to sort of dip your toe in that. Yeah.
I agree. So, one of the things that we do, and it coincides with our members show, is we do a print exchange just amongst our members, and people will sign up for it, and it's always so much fun to see what people are going to come up with, and so this is another great way that you get to collect work from your favorite members. And have a nice collection of their work. I have one woman that she does these incredible prints, and she always participates, which I love. So I now have probably about a half dozen of her prints, and they're fabulous. And it's a style I could never even attempt to do. I could never get to the caliber of how she does her prints. But that exchange is just. It's wonderful. It's great.
Yeah.
One of the other things that we do for our print club is we have what we call a presentation print, and this is a great thing for our collectors as well as our printmakers. And so since 1934, we have always commissioned a prominent printmaker to make an edition of prints for our membership, and membership is really cheap. Just a little plug out there.
Yeah. And are available, to people outside of Rochester. Correct.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. In the last couple of years, we've truly become a national club. We have members throughout the U.S. And so you don't have to live in Rochester to be a member. But so we have them make a special edition of prints specifically for our membership. For the very, very low price of $85, not only do you get to participate in all the different things that Print Club does, but you get one of these prints. And many of these names you would know, Miranda. I mean, it's like we just had Jean Gumper do our print this year. We've had Catherine Polk, we had Linda Whitney, we've had Dan Weldon, Karen Kuntz. We've got Claire Romano in our collection. We've Carol Wax. I mean, it's just like who's who of printmaking.
Yeah.
And, to be able to own these pieces that for $85 that would go for, thousands of dollars in the gallery is just wonderful. So anybody, wanting to find a way to start a collection or to add to your collection, this is a fabulous way to do it very inexpensively.
Yeah. And it's really wonderful too, because you've got the archive on your website. And so you can go back into the history there. And that's a who's who. Like if you want to know who in the 1940s was a printmaker that I should know about, okay. Alan Lewis, Rockwell Kent, Claire Layton, it's so wonderful. And then the prints that are from that time are so beautiful too. So if I had a little time machine, I would have loved to sign up for the Print Club of Rochester in the 1940s or even just from the beginning, because it's just a really, really beautiful collection, and like the history there is amazing. And it's such a wonderful way, I feel like, to support a printmaker, an accomplished printmaker out in the world. And then, of course, to get these works into the hands of the club members for, as you say, far, far less than what a Catherine Polk or a Jeffrey Dell might go for out on the open market,
Absolutely. Yeah. But then to kind of help educate our membership too of kind of the who's who out there, and then a lot of us start to follow those people and start to look at what else are they doing, and gee, maybe I need another one. Like I know I definitely need another Catherine Polk.
Oh, absolutely. You can never have enough Catherine Polk in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then we've even we did do a special one a couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago, with Ellen Heck. Just a small little, I believe we did about 15. She did 15 prints for us, and she threw in one of her 40 Fridas. So I guess it must be 41 Fridas now. Which I was in love with that series of hers, and I mean we've had some of these people come out. Ellen came out twice for us, actually. And we've had Tom Huck came out, Karen Kuntz has come out. So that's another aspect of just being able to meet these people and see what they're doing. And a lot of them have come out to do, demonstrations or to show their work and, have the opportunity to make those connections.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I feel like this might be a question with like an obvious answer, but I'm curious. Surely the fact that the Print Club of Rochester has been active in Rochester for the last 90 years, does this plant the seed for more print activity in Rochester than one might find in another Anytown America, USA, that would have a similar population, do you think? Like that the community is more engaged, that you might sort of grow more printmakers in the area then?
Well, we do have a couple of colleges in the area that do teach printmaking. Unfortunately, I think printmaking departments are not really on the rise. I wish that they were. Yeah, and in fact, a couple of them have completely shut down around here. Once we get them hooked into the print club, though, I think that the word tends to spread. We actually, a couple of us from the board went over and spoke to some of the students at one of the local colleges and brought, of course, some of the archive. And the kids were just wowed by the prints. And the professor who was there, too, was just as wowed. He was just like a giddy little kid. And I think that helped a lot because we've gotten a couple of young members from there. And I think that they're so excited by it that they're starting to get some of their friends into it that are printmakers. And so, I'm hoping, I know we try really hard to get different things happening through the print club. Like I said, the different exhibitions that we've done, the special ones that we've tried to come up with. So we're always out there trying to figure out new ways to get the community involved and make them aware of the print club. Because as I said, I wasn't even aware of it until about 10 years ago. And so I think what we've done, though, probably in the last 5 or 6 years has put us a little bit more out there on the map. And people are starting to kind of see us and know about us. And we've really tried to push it as much as we can to get things written up about us or, like I say, have these exhibitions at the colleges especially, and do other special exhibitions. We had a series that we did that included Jenny Robinson, actually, in one of them. It was called Under Pressure, and it was a series of 3 exhibitions that we did with our local Rochester Contemporary Art Center. And each time we had 3 prominent printmakers come in, and we included one local printmaker for these exhibitions. So we had Jenny Robinson, we had April Vollmer, we had Ellen Heck, and for one of the other ones, we had Catherine Polk. So I just think that doing those kinds of things and trying to kind of think outside the box of what we can do to get a lot of people to come to our exhibitions helps with fostering that printmaking community in the Rochester area.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rochester, just sort of in general, I feel like it's a city that I've heard a lot about before I ever started dating someone from Western New York. It's like it's a city that I feel like has a pretty big cultural profile in the sense of that I knew about it as a place in the world, much more so than I ever was aware of other cities and towns of 200,000 people that might be in other places. Because I think it does have a history, as you say, it does have colleges there. So I really love parts of America, cities in America particularly, that are a bit on the small side, sort of quote unquote, at the 200,000, but still have a strong sense of community and a strong sense of self and a strong sense of cultural output. And I feel like those are my favorite places to live, truly, because they feel small enough that you can start to know the people in that world and you can have that really strong sense of community, but you also get the benefits of, art exhibitions and maybe a theater and maybe times to, reasons to gather people together, with exhibitions and that sort of thing. Would you say that's an accurate reflection of what Rochester is?
I would say that it does first off have a very strong art community, not just of printmakers, but, of all types of artists. And I do believe that the colleges help with that. And I think you're right. I think it's small enough, but big enough to have things in it that you can really, especially as an artist, really get to know a good amount of the art community and just make all those connections. It's really quite easy to do, but it's not so small that it's stifling in any way. I think that's the other thing that I've loved about being in Print Club is I have met so many printmakers, so many artists, and other types of artists as well in this community. Our local museum, which is the Memorial Art Gallery, does every other year what they call a Finger Lakes show. And it's just people from this region in the Finger Lakes area. And again, just to see what's going on and what people are doing, not just in printmaking, but in other art areas. And it's a big show, and people come from all over to come see it, and it's just wonderful to see. It's a great little place to make all those connections with people.
Yeah. And I just think that can be the most rewarding thing when you find that balance, between the sense of community you can get in a city like Rochester, but also that artistic reward of having people come together and share ideas and having enough pull to get outside artists in as well,
yes.
To get Catherine Polk to come and have a chat. I just think that's just really wonderful. Yeah. And I would imagine, sort of based on a lot of what you've said that the Print Club of Rochester does, is that you've been able to keep up a fair amount of that through the last 18 months with COVID. Obviously, the exhibitions in person, these are the things that we've sort of missed out on, but you still are able to, let's say, commission a work. It looks like you'd commissioned a Mezzotinto by Linda Whitney in 2020. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just, wondering how you all have sort of pivoted. I've been asking almost everyone this, particularly on everyone in organizations, art institutes this, because I think we all need to be sharing ideas about how we're sidestepping and ducking and pivoting just to really figure out how do we stay connected? How do we try to thrive during a very unusual time in the Print Club of Rochester? I was going to say, Print Club just missed the Spanish flu, so you can't say it's happened. It was a little after the Spanish flu, so it's unprecedented for the Print Club, but only by a few years. Yeah.
Only by a few years. You're right. It was interesting, and it was hard for us because last year was our 90th year, and we had all kinds of things that were planned in celebration. And so things got curtailed. There's no doubt about it, but we tried to keep in touch with people. We did have our 90th exhibition, and the gallery that we worked with was fabulous. They did a virtual tour. It was one of these that was kind of interactive, so you could actually click on an image and look at it closer and get the information. We also did sort of a little studio visit with about 4 of us that were in the show and kind of showed, what we did and talked a little bit about process. And so I think it was very interesting to see what people came up with and how innovative everybody became in trying to still feel connected and to also still try to show the work. In fact, the international show that we just took down was actually supposed to happen last year. So we were fortunate enough that we were able to reschedule it for this year. And because things opened up a little bit for us, we were actually able to have an in-person opening reception. And we actually just recently did a talk for another art group, and that was in person as well. And our opening reception for our member show is going to be in person. So, there have been some things that we've been able to come to, but we've also been trying to stay connected virtually too.
Yeah.
So in fact, this year when we had Jean Gumper, I try to do what's called a big reveal of whatever our presentation print is, just to, hype it up.
Oh yeah, you got to get the drama in there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty good at that from having taught elementary school.
Oh, I bet.
So, and here's the print. So we do this big reveal, and, people came, and it was so nice because we hadn't seen anybody in at least a year. And we had our masks on, and we did it outside, and we passed out our print. But Jean was fabulous, and she did this virtual talk for our membership. With our membership. And she did beautiful PowerPoint of showing all the various steps, because she did this gorgeous 9-color print for us.
Jean, that's my girl. Yeah.
I know. And even at the end, she's like, well, can I do I have enough time to put one more color on? And I'm like, oh, go for it. I know exactly how you feel. So she did. But she did, a wonderful talk, and people could ask questions. And, she was just so forthcoming with all her technique, and, call me if you need help and if you've got a question. And, but, it just, again, it's just such a nice way to meet that artist, to get to know that artist, to learn about their process, and to not have to travel to Colorado to do that. I think that's truly one of the benefits, if you can say, of this whole pandemic, that people are finding other ways to make those connections. And I think they're better than what we had before.
Absolutely. And I do think that is something that is really significant that's happened in the art world in the last 18 months, is some of those barriers have been broken down. Yeah. Fancy schmancy galleries in Chelsea have been doing their artist talks online.
Yes.
And putting the Zoom link up, and somebody in a small town in India, if they're up late enough, can watch that and can access can access all of these resources that used to be very geographically specific. And I do find a lot of hope in that. And I always love seeing barriers broken down and the democratization of information. I mean, I love printmaking. I love like say it loud and say it far when it comes to these things. So I really do appreciate that happening. And considering that it still seems like, as sad as it is to say, we don't really see quite the end of the pandemic as of yet. I hope that it will, that sharing of information in the digital sphere, the archiving of it, the allowing people to access it and reference it for hopefully years to come. I do hope that will continue, and that it will help people who are located outside of London, New York, LA, Chicago, Jakarta, outside of these big centers, feeling a sense that they can learn from these really amazing artists, no matter where they are, as long as they have an internet connection. Yeah.
Well, and I certainly found that there were a lot more college professors who were doing their demonstrations via YouTube. And so, you can now go on, and there's so much more information that wasn't there before, because they needed to do this for their students. And just even the ways that they were innovative in, knowing full well that these students don't have a press. Well, okay, what do you do? What do you come up with? How do you think outside the box? It was funny because Jean Gumper in particular had a whole setup of what she was doing for her students. And instead of a press, she had them using a furniture caster,
really?
to roll across, to roll across instead of, using the old spoon. She had them using a caster to rub the print. So just all these new things that have come about, and because people had to think outside the box and had to find a way to make those connections with their students. So you're right, there's so much more information out there. And in fact, so as I mentioned before, we do, demonstrations and workshops and presentations, and we typically, the local Rochester Institute of Technology usually lets us use their printmaking lab to do those things. And now we didn't get a chance to do that last year. And we're all kind of craving that. And I was hopeful that we'd be able to do it come fall, but we're not really sure yet, with things going the way they are. So we're certainly already starting to talk about, okay, if that's not an option, now what do? We need to make those connections. We need to, still do these kinds of things that maybe we need to start doing more of them as virtual. Let's do a one-day little virtual workshop. Let's do a one-day little studio visit with somebody,
Yeah.
And
and I think that that's significant too in what you were saying about how it's not just the availability of the information, but it's also the kind of information, right? So it's how do you do this if you don't have access to a very lovely, fancy etching studio with, ventilation and drying racks and, all those things that really is a barrier for entry for a lot of people to printmaking. All of these wonderful creative printmaking thinkers out there, because a lot of them, as you say, they're teachers, they're finding ways to do it for their students. So like, go find a furniture caster and make your prints. I think that's just wonderful. And hopefully it can really bring more people into the fold again, who you don't, either don't live in a center where you have a community print shop or can't afford the fees to join a community print shop, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or even have the space to do it. And so, it's nice to find these simpler ways that can be successful. So, we need to keep them in the fold.
Absolutely. And I think that, you can do it through the workshops and through organizations. And then also, luckily, we've got the young kids out there making, sexy printmaking TikTok videos that'll hopefully plant a seed with the kids, keeping printmaking flame alive, which I love to see. So, I wanted to ask you, I'm kind of hoping, since you're a printmaker in Rochester, and you've been there for a while, I'm wondering, did we have a mutual friend in the wonderful Robert Marks? Did you know him?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know him well, but I'm a huge admirer of his work. I met him just on 2 occasions, once in his studio back when he actually still had his gorgeous press there. And then a second time when one of our local galleries had a solo exhibition of his paintings and prints. And he's widely known around here. And, it was incredible to listen to him talk. And he spoke of how every day he went to his studio and did some type of work, whether it was, his printmaking early on or his painting. And in fact, we even have 2 of his prints in our archive collection. He did 2 presentation prints for us. And the second one that he did, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I made sure that my husband bought that for me for a gift 1 year. Because it was a rather expensive one. But it's like, I must have his work. His work is just gorgeous. So, so he was... I don't know if he was actually, I'm sure he must have been at some point a member of Print Club, but certainly he's well known in the Rochester area for his work.
Yeah. I was definitely hoping we'd get a chance to put his name out on the Hello Print Friend airwaves and just kind of out in the world, because he's, for me, one of the most incredible printmakers I've ever known. I showed his work at Davidson Galleries in Seattle. And so I got to work with him through that, and his wife as well, and, meet him in person a few times. And he was just an incredible, gentle, empathetic human spirit. And just his prints are, as you say, just amazing. And, he never, at least from my working with him, he never had that, I guess, I don't know if I want to call it the hustle, because it's not like he didn't work, but it's just, he was an incredibly hard worker, but he never had the, look at me, check it out, that kind of, self-promotional attitude, maybe, is the best way to put it. He was very humble and self-reflective. And so I don't think that his prints have gotten the attention or maybe the place in history that I think that they deserve. And so for anyone listening who's not familiar with Robert Marks, he was born in 1925 and he passed away last year. And so, he's a solidly 20th century, early 21st century printmaker who has just made absolutely amazing intaglio works, mostly about humans, the human figure, the human experience. A lot of them deal with issues of loneliness and suffering. He was someone who was born in Germany in 1925 and had to come to America. Like, he's someone who knew the depths of what humans experience. And you see that in his incredible renderings of the human figure in these completely creative ways. And I don't know, I guess I can't say enough good things about him. And I was hoping that we would have an excuse to sing his praises a little bit, so people will know, know his work more, I hope. Yeah.
I would agree. His prints are absolutely beautiful. There's, and he was an incredibly humble person. You look at his work and even though it does tend to talk about loneliness, there's a calmness in it too. You look at his pieces and there's something there that, I don't know, you look and there's a sort of a restfulness. There's a peacefulness in them, as well as, maybe talking about the loneliness. And it's funny because in looking at his work, I didn't realize that it was about the loneliness. I didn't know that until I read his artist statement at this exhibition that he had locally. And I found that so interesting. And then, of course, you look at the work again a second time with fresh eyes, and you're like, okay, I do see that in there as well. But there's a peacefulness that I see in his work. There's this contemplation and restfulness almost of the human spirit.
Yes. Yeah. He reminds me a little bit of another late great New England printmaker, Leonard Baskin. But he's almost like a softer Leonard Baskin, I feel like. Or I think Leonard Baskin was particularly known for being a bit prickly. And it's in terms of investigating the human form and really just letting it stand on its own as a symbol for our universal experiences. But there's just, as you say, a calm, I don't know. Yeah, it's really hard to explain. I think that people should just look up the work, and he does beautiful paintings as well. Yeah. And, as I think you sort of mentioned towards the end of his career, he was doing more painting. And I think that, makes sense for someone in their 90s, the kind of immediacy that painting can afford. Yeah.
Yes. At 93 years old, I believe he was 93, and he was having a solo exhibition, and about 90% of the work was new work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how in the world are you doing that? And how do I do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's an absolute inspiration. So Robert Ernst Marks, I highly recommend all the kids out there take a look at it, because he's someone who I'd love to see get a bit more recognition, because he certainly deserves it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as I said, two of his prints are in our collection. So all you have to do is go to our website to see his work. Absolutely.
And you do, for the prints that people can purchase, there's a member price and a non-member price, correct?
Correct. So that's the other thing that's fantastic too. So if you just join now, and there's a print that we still have available from a past archive print or presentation print, you as a member get 50% off of the retail price. So it's, again, another way to add to your collection. I've kind of done a lot of that since I joined. I have a whole list of, okay, now I want this one and now I want that one. And because they were, these beautiful prints that were before my time in the print club, but I still would love to have them. So 50% off retail, which is pretty significant on some of these pieces.
Absolutely. Yeah. And definitely worth the price of admission for sure.
Yeah.
Because not only do you get, the 50% off, but you also get the all the other benefits that we talked about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So in the time that we have left, have we missed anything? I feel like we've done a wonderful job talking about all the great things that the Print Club does and its history, and hopefully gotten people really excited about it and excited about this idea of the community that people can build around printmaking. Anything else that you want to make sure people know about before we have to sign off?
Well, there is one thing that we actually started this year for the first time, and we decided we really wanted to do something positive in the community, in addition to all the other things that we do. But we wanted to sponsor a BIPOC printmaker to have the opportunity to work at one of our local co-ops. That's called Flower City Art Center. And so we had people submit. They had to have had at least a couple of classes of printmaking, but it didn't necessarily have to be someone new to printmaking. It just was someone that maybe needed some studio space and studio time. So we asked our membership. Actually, we did a fundraiser, and we got a great response from our membership, and we raised enough money to be able to do this for a couple of years. So you had to apply, and we have our very first, what we're referring to as our BIPOC artist printmaker, who will be having 4 months of unlimited 24/7 time at this studio space in Rochester, and will be able to, continue their work, and then we're hoping that they will show and share with us of what they've created during that time.
Excellent. And so where can people find more about that initiative? Would that be on the website, or if someone has their ears pricked up and want to maybe apply for the next time, is the website best place?
Yeah, website is where we will have the information, and we're hoping that we can do this every year. And it does need to be, though, someone from the local area, because at the moment we're not really able to support them as far as having a place to stay out here.
Yeah.
But at least 4 months of unlimited time at a printmaking studio is pretty incredible, if you ask me. And it's great, especially for students who are just getting out of college and suddenly realizing they don't have any place to print.
Yes, that is a perpetual issue for sure. So
yeah.
Well, beautiful. Excellent. Well, where can people find the Print Club, get involved, see the archive, look at Robert Marks's beautiful etchings? Where can they do all this? Yeah.
So we are all over the place. We, of course, have a website, and it's at printclubofrochester.org. We are also on Twitter, and that's at Print Club Rock, ROC. We're on Instagram at Print Club of Rochester, and we're on Facebook, again, Print Club of Rochester. Just keep putting that name out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. It was wonderful to chat, to learn more about the Print Club of Rochester, to hopefully spread the good word and inspire people. And thank you for all the work that you do, supporting artists and getting the good word of print out there.
Well, we try our best, absolutely. We've got a very hardworking board of directors right now, and as we have always had, actually. And so we're just really trying to put it out there as much as possible and get the word out about printmaking and get the word out about our particular club and all that we do.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you again, and I look forward to sharing the story and sharing our chat. It'll be really fun.
All right. Sounds great. It's wonderful to talk with you as well, Miranda.
Well, that's our show for this week. Join me again next week when my guest will be Ann Coffin, founder of the International Print Center of New York. We'll talk about coming to printmaking through collecting, the effects of the September 11th attacks on the art scene of New York and beyond, the democratization of print, the foundations of starting a solid not-for-profit, and looking back over its 20-year history of print advocacy. You won't want to miss it. This episode, like all episodes, was written and produced by me, Miranda Metcalf, with editing by Timothy Pauschak and music by Joshua Weber. I'll see you next week.